You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. We had a brief hiatus at the beginning of the week for President's Day, and lo and behold, the Option Block is off, and the whole world goes to hell, because that's what happens when we're not here talking things back off the... I warned you going at the end of last show. I said, watch out, we're not going to be here to talk you off the ledge at the beginning of the week, and the world didn't listen and decided to go off of that precipice anyway. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-compelling Options Insider Radio Network. Fun stuff out there available on pretty much every platform under the sun. Of course, if you like what you hear on the on-demand side, then keep rating and reviewing. You could argue with these crazy, just insane markets we're all living through right now. It's more important than ever to put a review out there if you like what you hear. So the new folks who are saying to themselves, what the hell is happening? Go into a place like a Spotify or an Apple Podcast or wherever to get their content, and looking up the word options or volatility or whatever they're searching for. You can argue it's more important than ever for them to have something to look at now to help point them in the right direction. We tend to think we are that right direction. So if you agree, then head on over and leave those reviews. Of course, if you like what you hear, you want to go above and beyond, join us for the great pro Q&As. We had the one, the only, the inimitable Uncle Mike join us for the first time ever. Hard to believe. First time ever in the pro Q&A hot seat this week. We had a great time with that one. If you want to join that stuff as well, as, of course, Options Oddities every Friday, all sorts of other fun stuff throughout the week, live shows throughout the week, theoptionsinsider.com/secret club. Not that much of a secret anymore, but we're trying to keep it on the download nonetheless. And, of course, however you listen live after the fact, keep sending in those questions. We know you got them, because we all do these days. Let's see if we can work through them together. Let's see who's joining me on the show to help me work through such things. First off, let's go back to the aforementioned Uncle-list of Mikes. Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, fresh off his exhausting but fulfilling appearance in the Pro Q&A hot seat. Mr. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show. Are you rested and indeed fulfilled, sir, from your epic sojourn on Tuesday?
Definitely. I mean, you're really not lying. It actually was pretty intense, the questions, but it really was a ton of fun. So rest was required, but ready to gear it up for today's show.
You know, I hate to break it to our chat, but it's not Monday. We got Luigi saying, can you smell what The Rock is cooking? We're not doing the wrestling today, but yeah, sure, why not? Let's all smell what The Rock is cooking, because why not? Even though he doesn't really count as an 80s wrestler, so he wouldn't really fall within our purview. But a fun one there, nonetheless. Let's go out. He's already mystified. He's like, wait a minute, I thought I was on the Thursday show. I thought I'd have to talk about wrestling. He is the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. You know, Mr. Rock Lobster, I warned you guys last week. I said, when we're not around, crazy things tend to happen. And what happened, Mr. Rock Lobster? I leave you alone for a few minutes, and you go marching into Ukraine, sir.
I believe you have me mistaken with the bare-chested leader of the Russian Republic.
Yes, bare-chested. Right. He rode the horse with no shirt. That's right. To prove his manliness and virility. Good stuff, Mr. Rock. Thanks for bringing that image back up into my head.
I try to help. I try to help where I can.
There was some more attractive female comedian who I think did the same shot too. She went around topless on a horse and as a joke. And I'd rather have that image in my head. So I'm going to try to conjure that up instead as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, let's get to it, listeners. We call it the trading block. I guess we can call it the invasion block today because the moment people have been anticipating, dreading, watching out for over there in Ukraine, we've been talking about for months now, speculating, will it happen, won't it happen? It finally happened since our last show, of course, with last night, the actual troops rolling into Ukraine from the north, from Belarus, from the east, talks about fighting over airports, fighting over Chernobyl, tanks rolling through the streets, people fleeing out of Kiev. It's a pretty terrible scene over there. So this was the moment we've been dreading for a while. The markets have clearly been dreading. We've been pricing this in to markets for a little bit. We've seen a lot of topsy-turviness, a lot of volatility, a lot of juice out there, a lot of sell-offs, a lot of red on the screen as a result. And people kept wondering, what are we going to see when or if the tanks actually do roll? Will we see a 40 handle in VIX? And the answer so far, at least, we're effectively on a war VIX right now, an invasion VIX at the very least. And coming into the start of the show, we had about a 33 3/4. That's up. It's up about 7.5 points. Remember, no show on Monday, so that's going back a week ago. We're up 7.5 points over the course of the past week. We got up as high this morning. It looks like right a little bit shy of 38, about 37.79. So everyone who thought, okay, instant 40 handle once the tanks start rolling. Not quite. We got close, but not quite there. A VVIX, which is the vol at about a 135 when we kicked off the show. That puts it up 8 handles from this time last week. VXX, a product that doesn't like to go up, went up this week, up 1.25 points from our last show. And we have UVXY, which was at about a 20 handle, a little bit north of a 20 handle when we kicked off the show. That puts it up 4.5 points from where it was this time last week. So a lot to unpack out there, listeners. Let's go around the horn to, that's the problem. Looking at it again, VXX looks like it's up about 3.25 points. So that makes a little bit more sense. There we go, 1.25. We wrote 1.25, 3.25. 3.25 points for VXX there. So yeah, a lot to unpack there. Let's go around the horn. Let's start in the land that time forgot, a.k.a. the shores of Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, we've been anticipating this for a while, wondering what kind of impact we would see on the markets. I didn't even run down the broad markets. As we're coming into the start of the show, we're seeing the Dow off a little over 2%, about 2.1%. S&P off about 1.15%. NASDAQ off about 0.12% or so. NASDAQ actually turning green briefly on the day. So some folks out there in NASDAQ land said, hey, it's BTFD season. Let's get to town. Let's get to work, because they bought that bad boy all the way back up to unched after everything in the overnight looked like it was going to be very dire, off 2+% across the board. And then, NASDAQ actually getting green. Can it get green again as we talk here? And of course, we're seeing commodities seeing that impact as well. We're seeing energy, metals, ags skyrocketing up there. We'll get to that more a little bit later today with TWIFO, listeners, so stay tuned for that. But let's go back to the rockingest of lobster. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts so far? We're actually on an official war VIX now, a war footing. Are you surprised by what you're seeing, or maybe not seeing?
You mean, am I surprised by VIX going up? Because Putin, I think surprised everybody.
Not surprised that VIX would go up, but maybe to the extent or lack of extent that it went up, and also,
you know what? That's a good one there on. I think the market has had a slow move up in volatility, and the market's basically been selling off in anticipation of this. I've traded through like several. Of these kind of global war event things. we've had a couple of Gulf wars, Gulf War, Iraq War. We invaded Afghanistan, all that kind of stuff. And then when the event happened, like there was a big blow up in vol, and there was a prolonged period, where the market was soft. So once Putin basically put his troops on the border, you could mark that day, but the SPX has been down since that day. Because the market's like, oh, okay, well, this is different, right? This is a problem. We don't know how it's going to end, but it sucks. And VIX has made a steady climb since then. And it hasn't really, it went up basically from, I would say, a low of 20, came back down a little bit, and then but it's continued pretty much on this trajectory. And it doesn't, and as of today, it's not stopping. So what I would tell my students is, backwardation in VIX is always serious because you never know how long it will last. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 2 months, it could be 3 months. Generally, VIX can stay up here. The market doesn't have to go to zero, but you could still stay at a relatively high volatility for a long time, just because everybody's freaked out. Market's up 2%, okay, and then it ends the day unched, right? Or market down 2%, ends the day unchanged. It's like you have this crazy intraday volatility, so it's hard for VIX to really for volatility to drop because just the new level of realized vol is so high, and basically the VIX is looking at a 1 month straddle as well. I mean, it looks at every strike, but you think about it, what's it doing? And that straddle is what, $300 right now, or $350? Let's see. I got to take a look. The last time I looked, I'm going to say it's about $350. Okay, I'm just looking at the March ordinary, which is a little bit light, about a week. Let me go out to the next weekly. Let's go. We're going to the 25th. And yeah, so that straddle right now is $270. I was guessing $300. So at 270, so that's the market kind of giving you their best guess expected move. That's a pretty good move in the SPX. That's at 270, that's a $540 range. Pretty big. So 540 points, which is well over 10% in the SPX. So like the market has, at least from a vol point of view, it's kind of been pushing that number out there. Now what I found today, which is surprising, maybe TOSAW can comment on this, is okay, oil prices are $100. I wonder how the big oil majors are affected by this by their, what the size of their assets in Russia, right? Like, because now you've got kind of a mess. Because I'm looking at XLE is down $1.12 on the day. Exxon Mobil is down $1.12. So with oil up, all these majors are down. So that's kind of an odd, an uncorrelated odd movement to me. So maybe peak oil prices just in the short term. So that's kind of a weird thing. Gold made a huge move this morning. We had a nice little trade in that for my trading legion, which I closed all the calls right on, pretty much on the opening. But gold's kind of pulled back a little bit. So I think there's, again, I don't know how long VIX staying above 30 will last. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks. Roughly in 2 weeks, though, we have expiration. So, or the 15th. So it is a odd, it is totally, I would say at least the market was somewhat expecting this. We're now down a full 600 points, SPX points from the top. So that's a pretty good sell-off by anybody's guess. Good chunk. And I guess now we're seeing where we go next, essentially. And what I would say, right, at least for now, is we're in backwardation as far as the curve is looking. We're not out of it, and until we drift out of it, just still expect more weird stuff to happen. Like my biggest worry is, does China have a green light to invade Taiwan? I mean, if you're going to put your tinfoil hat on, you might as well put a big one on, right? Like, they steaming some warships into the China, South China Sea or whatever. So I don't know. Like, what did Putin and Xi
don't whisper that into existence, sir. That's the last thing we need. Is ships moving towards Taiwan. There we go. Then we got a 50 handle on our hands in VIX, if not more.
At least.
I'm buying 50 calls at that point. I'm being 50 Cent. Here we go. 50 calls. Yeah. See, you start saying these things, Mr. Rock Lobster. Next thing you know, bam, global geopolitical turmoil afoot out there. It's funny you should mention, how long will this last, Mr. Rock Lobster? That's our question for you folks right now. Actually, a little bit different, going outside the box for our question of the week this week. Put up a little bit later, obviously, this week, too, because you weren't around on Monday. Asking you to put your global geopolitical strategist hat on this time, and not just your market analyst hat, and saying, hey, we're all watching these tragic events unfolding in the Ukraine right now. Many people are wondering, though, about the extent of the impact on volatility going forward. How long do you think we'll see the financial fallout from Ukraine? Is this just an invasion-driven blip, or are we looking at more of an insurgency-related volatility that's going to drag on the markets for many years to come? So we gave you those choices, kind of very broad strokes, a few days, a few weeks, a few months, or a few years. So interesting voting already going on. This just went live right before showtime at Options. Get in there. This will be live until, I believe, after vol views tomorrow. So it's not really a question of the week. It's really a question of a couple of days. But get in there. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And, as the Rock Lobster's throwing all these crazy geopolitical things out there, it is interesting to see some of the historical parallels going on right now. There's been a lot of stuff going on recently about Chamberlain and about the lead up to World War II. And, of course, the Munich conference. Netflix is putting out a big show about that called Munich Prelude to War. People rethinking Chamberlain. And, of course, now here we are, all these decades later, Western leaders rushing to Munich yet again to try to forestall an invasion by an Eastern European tyrant trying to claim some sovereignty over some former sovereign lands, using that as an excuse, a prelude to an invasion. How do you stop them? It's the same kind of question they faced back then as well. Didn't work out too well for the world last time. Let's see if we can maybe get things right or do a little better this time. But interesting historical precedents. You ignore history at your peril out there. Let's go on out now to a man who never ignores history. He is the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW. A lot to unpack on this somewhat unprecedented day, Mr. Uncle Mike. What is lighting up your tape on a definitely not Uncle Mike type of day?
Like they say, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And so I think that we really do need to keep a close eye on what's happening in Ukraine. In terms of the market itself, today kind of felt like a reverse Trump day. So in other words, through the Trump era, the big thing that it seemed like he would talk about very frequently would be, oh, we're going to have tariffs on China. Then the market would go down, and he's like, I don't think we are. And then the market would go up. And so I miss that Trump indicator, quite frankly. Not trying to be political, but I do miss trading that situation, not going to lie. But today kind of seemed like a reverse Trump in that the last week or so, Biden's been talking about how Russia's going to invade, and the market would go down a little bit, go down a little bit, go down a little bit. And then today, last night was very interesting to watch because when they actually did it, S&P went down roughly 100 points. And so I went to bed thinking, well, all right, this is going to be some rolling down some put spreads in the morning. But market went up in the morning. So it was like kind of not a letdown. Obviously, I was happy that I didn't have to roll them down, at least as of yet. I mean, my finger's on the proverbial button, so to speak, in case I have to. But we actually bottomed. And so I think that the reason that we've had some stability today, if you want to call the S&P being down 43 points a stable day, the reason that we're having some stability on the day is just because I think that the market's been prepared for this and value's been coming out of the market gradually over the course of the last few days. And to kind of add to what Andrew said in regard to oil, you could argue that it is towards a peak because we're right around that 100 level with oil. And when we have things like that happening, it is a key number, and the news is already out. So I'm not really taking any short-term positions in oil, but it's definitely something that I think any trader has to watch. A couple other things that are intriguing me about this downturn, so to speak, is that a lot of times when we have something bad happen, there's a rush to safety. And with that, it's up a little bit now, but for a while today, the 10-year note was actually lower than it was on Friday. And so if this is so bad, which I'm not trying to take things away from it, it is so bad. But from the standpoint of the market, if this is so bad, where's the money going? Why is it not flooding to the 10-year note? It's not. It's going there, but it's not really having a major move that you would think of if World War III is starting, so to speak. Silver was actually up over 5% on the day for a little while when we started, but now it's back to flat. So why isn't there a rush to commodities right now in the precious metals? Or why is silver not being something that's just being bought up? Gold, just looking at the gold is up 15. It's at 1925. That's really not a major move if World War III is starting. And yes, there is Bitcoin. I think that I've heard people call Bitcoin digital gold at some point. Bitcoin's down on the day. And so I don't know if Bitcoin's necessarily a safe haven, but it is down on the day. Just wanted to mention that for all of my people that are sending me the hate mail on Bitcoin, but it is down on the day. So with where we're at right now, from a world safety standpoint, we have to be very alert. From a market standpoint, you're getting opportunities to hedge yourself, take risks, make plans, do whatever you need to do for another leg coming down. In that this did not happen. We are down roughly 10% off the all-time highs, a little bit more than that from early January. But you've had opportunities to make adjustments and do things. And what I was concerned with last night going to bed, I was concerned that it would go down too quick and then I wouldn't be able to make my adjustments or do what I needed to do. Thankfully, it didn't. But you're seeing opportunities to take caution. And for taking caution, I believe you need to do that for things with which you need to take caution. Short-term trades, things that you're levered on, that's where you need to take caution. For long-term buy and hold investments, like a lot of my clients have some of, they're getting beat up a bit today, but S&P has doubled in the last 2 years. So cry me a river. That's about what I would say about that. So part of this is big rallies, begot big pullbacks, but of course, the other part is that there is a potential war involved. And if you're concerned with this for your shorter term positions, you've had the opportunity. President Biden's given, I don't even know how many speeches warning about this. And today it actually happened. And the market's been not so bad considering that's the news that's actually happened. Now, does this mean it's going to go lower or this is a buying opportunity? That's for the individual trader to decide. I know this is a shocker, but if this market was higher on the year, I'd probably be buying this on my aggressive strategy. But have an understanding that this isn't something that's going to come like too much of a thief in the night, because last night when the S&P dropped 100 points, right now it's only down 44 points. And at one point it was down only 20 points, or roughly 20 points. And the NASDAQ was even positive on the day today. So if you were scared out of your wits at the open this morning and you did nothing, and now you're thinking, oh, everything's fine, I would caution you to make sure that you have your risk management in place, even though the market has rallied a little bit today. That's pretty much everything that I'm seeing right now.
I don't know. Things can never be said to be fine when Chernobyl is trending. That's never a good thing. I can't recall any time that Chernobyl has trended, and it's been a good thing. Of course, obviously, the first time Chernobyl came on our radar, there was no Twitter. But yeah, intriguing stuff. Apparently, the battle for Chernobyl is over. The Russians have it. For what that means, what they plan to do with it, what their intentions are, people are obviously a little bit concerned about that. So interesting stuff afoot over there on the far side. We'll stay out of the political side of the fray. Let's get on into what's going on in the markets right now. And go figure, an actual invasion, actual war as terrible as it sounds, usually translates to a little bit of paper on the old VIX front, and that's pretty much exactly what we're seeing. 503,000 contracts. That's a tick over 500,000 contracts in VIX right now. Interestingly enough, the ADV has trended down a bit since our last show. It's down back below 700K. 697. It was around, I think, about 760 or so on our last show. So that's come off quite a bit, but after today, it's probably going to start trending back in the other direction. All it took was some actual shooting in Ukraine, and lo and behold, it materializes into some VIX paper. SPY, same deal, 5.75 million contracts on the tape already. The ADV about 7.4 million. So the ADV is pretty much the same in SPY. That hasn't changed too much. The S putting up some numbers as well. 1.15 million contracts on the tape in the S. The ADV 1.8 million. So that's pretty much staying the same ADV wise as well. Not a big change from either SPY or SPX there. And small caps, at least from the IWM flavor, 694,000 contracts on the tape. That ADV has decreased a little bit as well. It's back ever so slightly below a million contracts again. It's 975,000. Of course, if you want more, what's going on in the big dog ruts and everything else over there in small cap, stay tuned for TWIFO. Coming up in about exactly an hour here, let's go out to the land of the most actives. And, if you had told me that on the day that Russia invaded Ukraine, that A, it would only be 220,000 contracts to break into the top 10, I would have been surprised. I would have thought this would be a 300K day. And then B, that it would be AMC at the number 10 spot and not something else perhaps more geopolitically relevant, I would have been surprised as well. Yet that's where we find ourselves today, listeners. Number 10, 220,000 contracts. That gets you to the king of the apes out there, which is AMC, which was up a little bit, I believe, this morning. Yeah, up about a quarter, hovering right around the 16 handle right now. Number 9, good old Softy, 250, so exactly 250,000 contracts on the tape for number 9 for Microsoft. They're up a bit as well, feeling this lift, this strange post-invasion rally ho mode we're seeing out there in the tech names. 284 and change, up about 3 3/3 or so, a little over 1% on the day. Number 8, Bank of America, 275,000 contracts on the tape. That one, let's see, I don't have that up here. Let's pull up Bank of America, see how our friend Bank of America is doing. It's actually selling off about 2.5 points, or about 5.6%. It's down to about 42.25 right now. And then a name that has been very beaten up. We've been kind of talking about it a little bit on Options Oddities. Maybe it's an intriguing put sale candidate out there. It's getting a little bit of its love back today. This is Palantir for 356,000 contracts, the number 7 spot on our top 10. It's about 11.15 or so right now, up about $0.75. So getting a nice pop. I guess folks looking at a lot more data analysis coming in this post-Ukraine world out here. So Palantir bouncing off its lows. It got into a 10. Yeah, it actually broke the 10, 978. So it's had quite the run, about $1.50 almost since this morning, actually. It hit 978 this morning. So this thing's had quite the pop today. Wow, my goodness. That was a crazy print because it stayed there for about 2 seconds, and then it was immediately printing 10.5 right after that. So whoever got the 978 print today in Palantir, well done to you. Facebook, number 6. Are they feeling a little bit of love today? The answer is no. They're off 6.5% over the past 5 days. Today, they're actually bouncing a little bit, up about, not quite 1%, about 0.75%, about $1.60, hovering right around the 200 level. They have rebounded a bit off their lows for pretty much the last year or so, which came earlier today. They got down to, how low did they get? 190 and change. So they have rebounded from there as well. So yeah, this interesting rebound we're seeing in the NASDAQ. It's I think, interesting to say the least. Facebook, number 6, 387,000. Number 5, it's a day that ends in Y. Ford's going to be on the list. Ford, 389,000 contracts. Ford hovering at about 1660, off about 2% or about 35 cents. Earlier today, it got down to the 16 handle. I don't think it broke it. Yeah, it pretty much opened at 15.99, actually. I guess technically it did break it for a brief second there. But yeah, so Ford net up from the open, but it's still down on the day. Good for number 5. Number 4, it's NVIDIA. It kind of has, NVIDIA and AMD have a lock on like 4 and 3, and that's kind of the case again today. Spoiler. NVIDIA, number 4, 487,000 contracts. Number 3, AMD, 500,000 contract. Would you expect a 500,000 contract day from AMD on an invasion day. It's actually up slightly now. It's almost 110. This morning it was trading 104.5, but they're feeling rally ho mode. Number 2, you could probably guess what it is. It's Tesla, because who doesn't want to talk electric cars? I guess it does become part of the conversation when we're talking about energy prices at these levels. Electric cars feeling a little bit of their lack of luster today, even though nowhere near as bad as it was this morning. Let's see. Tesla this morning hit 700 pretty much even. Kind of bounced right from there on the open, trading almost 760 right now, 759 and about a half. Still off about $4.50 on the day, but yeah, it was off almost 60 handles lower at one point this morning. And it was up briefly on the day as well. Got up to today 774. My goodness. So a 70, almost 75 handle range on the day for Tesla. So this one's moving. No surprise. It's 1.1 million contracts there. And then the fruit company, still the big dog, even on a day like today when other factors may be driving other things out there. 1.18 million, Apple off about $2 or 1.2% today. Earlier today, it was trading about 152.5. That seems to be about the low for the day. And then it got up as high as pretty much almost where it is right now, 158.83. So it's just had a 6-handle range, a little more than that on the day here for Apple. So yeah, intriguing stuff afoot here across the board. Are you BTFDing this invasion, listeners? Sounds like a lot of people are. Or are you perhaps fading? I know some of our chat talking about maybe scooping up some farther out puts. Actually, not that far out. Some 25 handle puts in the VIX going out about a week or so. Are you on board for some of that? You got something else up your sleeve? Hit us up. Let us know out there. We got to get rolling. It is time, listeners, to unleash the beast. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, let's get weird. Let's get wild. Let's get whimsical. And, you know, Mr. Rock Lobster, do you recall a few weeks back, maybe a month or so back on our Options Oddities program, we were discussing what the heck is up with this Tellurian, this nat gas name out of Houston? Why can't it catch a lift in all this nat gas turmoil? Do you recall that discussion, Mr. Rock Lobster?
It is possible that I recall this. It is. We'll give it a possible. It is a possible. It is a possible.
Okay, because we're going back to that name. If you are not part of our secret club, listeners, see all the fun you're missing. But we were talking for a while about this name that seemed to be languishing in the $2 range. This is Tellurian Inc., a nat gas company, like I mentioned, out of Houston. In the past, you would have said, well, it's not surprising. Natural gas is a very localized commodity. They ship it through pipelines to nearby regional markets. If they can't do that in some sort of reasonable capacity, they just burn it off. So it's not surprising it's not catching a bid with what's going on in Eastern Europe. But as we all know, the natural gas market has evolved. It is a much more globalized commodity now. They will ship it on tankers over there to Eastern Europe, where it's going for a lot more than it is in, let's say, the Houston area. So that was surprising to us. Obviously, other things were afoot. We did see some other big names come out, I think, and downgrade Tellurian, since they clearly have some issues going on. But let's do a quick year recap on them. A year ago, listeners, they're trading 330 right now. They were trading 330 exactly a year ago. They ran up to their high for the year on actually everyone's favorite day again, June 8th. What magical mystery does that day hold, listeners? I get to figure it out. My research has not given me any compelling answers. But June 8th, once again, the high for the year for this one, 576 it hit. And then it sold off again down to 259 on August 20th. But actually, between that, I missed one. In August, it hit its low for the year of 162. So it has quite the run. Then it rallied again on November 5th to 475 before selling off again to 226 back in early February. I believe that's what we were talking about, is saying, what's going on? Everyone's putting up calls and bidding up nat gas over there at CME. You talk about it on TWIFO every week, but Tellurian can't catch a bid. Well, it seems like that bid finally materialized, Mr. Rock Lobster, because in the last week or so, it's gone from 243 all the way up to where it is right now, 330. So nice little pop over the course of the past week, up about 26, almost 27%. So better late than never, I suppose. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found today. No surprise, Mr. Rock Lobster. it's mostly calls. This time it's the 3.5 calls in March. Even though the big print, 19,916 of these went up. Looks like they were kind of hitting the bid. Well, it was crossed on the open. They were 15 at 20. It looks like maybe they parked a 15-cent bid in for a customer, and then they crossed it. So they filled it, but someone did take the other side of that. Someone said, sold to you, I am going to hit that 3.5 bid for 15 cents. So view it how you will. People took both sides of that trade this morning. It could have been the desk, too, saying, hey, you want to make this customer good. He's working a 15-cent bid. We'll just sell them to him. But either way, people took both sides of that, the 15-cent bid. It is worth noting a total of about 27,000 of these March 3.5s have traded now. And it does seem like the latter prints after that big print on the open have been mostly buys. By the way, the stock is up since then. They bought these calls this morning and sold them. And when the stock was 306, it is now 332. So they had a nice little pop even since this morning. And it seems like the latter portion has been scooping. So Mr. Rock Lobster, maybe whoever stepped up to make these calls good, make this customer good, hitting that 15-cent bid, perhaps regretting it now. What say you on these calls, and also on the fact that this Tellurian finally making something of itself, sir?
So it looks like the customer sold the calls at 15 cents, right?
It does, yes. But it was crossed. So that bid was weird, and they took it down. So someone bought them. But the customer, the leg we profiled is selling it, yes.
So as of right now, according to the option block rules of engagement when purchasing calls, if your calls are up on the same day you purchase the calls, we call that a good buy. So the seller, I think, is a little unhappy because they're 25 bid in their face right now. 25-cent bid in their face on these calls.
How do those rules of engagement apply to Ukraine and maybe capturing Chernobyl? What are the Andrews rules of engagement for that?
Yeah. I hope the Russians leave quietly after they get the Ukrainians not to militarize or some
isn't that the best? They launched an invasion with 75% of their military force to demilitarize Ukraine. That we launched a military invasion to that's might be the worst justification for an invasion I've ever heard.
I believe there was a preponderance of Nazis.
Yes, yes. And denazification. They wanted to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. I hate to laugh because but I mean, it's so patently absurd. You kind of have to.
But it's what's good is when they the Russian when the Russian president reads that, or their foreign minister, what the reasons for the provocation were. But anyway, besides the hand wringing over that, what I would just say is an unfortunate situation. The seller at 15 cents looking for yield. Whoever accommodated that trade there, the calls were a 25-cent bid now. So
they're wearing it.
I would just say whoever was the seller is currently annoyed because they could have got almost 10% yield for the calls that they sold, and they did not. So I will just put that out there for the listeners that. And again, this is like they must have really liked the earnings call. And, if you can't make money selling nat gas right now, like when the hell are you going to make money?
Exactly. That's what we were saying. Like, what is the upside for this name if it cannot turn a profit
all I
now?
know is the market for natural gas in the U.S., if our current government lets us export it, of course, is immense in Europe and in Japan and in China. Like, we should be exporting all this gas. And put the Russians out of business, Instead, they've been funding the whole Russian war machine for the last, 10, 20 years by buying that gas from the Russians instead of us for some stupid reason. So I don't really know what to say about that. I think in this case, the seller is unhappy with this particular trade.
I would say so, yeah. So Tellurian, you're right. They did have earnings recently as well, so that obviously driving. They missed on their earnings, but looks like revenue they beat, and I think they announced they're starting to build a pipeline or a plant in Louisiana for nat gas as well. So market clearly liking that, and this seller not liking the fact that he accommodated to hit that bid on these 3.5 calls. Listeners, I know some of you were keeping an eye on Tellurian. Have you gotten active out there? Hopefully you weren't selling these calls, but a couple of weeks ago, that was a great, you saw 15-cent bid for 3 halves, you would have sold them all day. So, interesting things afoot out here. Speaking of interesting things afoot that we just noticed, we have a couple trades we can pay off actually from our last show. First, we were talking about last week, listeners, Thor Industries. We saw someone doing a pretty aggressive line in the sand put in Thor Industries. This is the manufacturer of RVs out there, ticker symbol THO, THO. At the time, the stock was, about 94 and a quarter. We profiled someone selling the 85 puts for 20 cents. We threw the bid. There were 25-cent bid at 30. They crushed them for 20 cents. The stock at the time was almost 95 when that print went up. We thought that was kind of aggressive. It went up pretty much with like 1 day to go. And they were looking good. And the puts were still open at the end of our show on Thursday. And we said, looks like they were on their way to maybe pocketing about $100,000. And the stock closed on expiration last week, listeners, 91.51. So those puts were still open. They kept all their money right around $100,000. And it's a good thing, too, because as of today, our friend Mr. Putin's action out there, the stock's off another $2 today. It's off over almost $10 on the week, actually. It looks like it closed, 91.5. So it's off $9 on the week. It's trading 82.5 right now. So these puts would have been dramatically in his face if he had gone out another week. So Mr. Rock Lobster, a case, we thought it was a little dicey, but it was all right. I mean, he only had a day to go. It was pretty far out of the money. And if it was even a little bit longer through the weekend, sir, he probably would have been wearing this one. But he ended up skating and pocketing his $100,000, sir.
Well, you know what? Sometimes luck helps. That's all I'm going to say. I guess in this case, the line of the sand put, even though Mark thinks it should be a boxy Mercedes, does not sound anything sexy like a Ferrari. You buy your girlfriend a boxy Mercedes.
Yeah, that G-Wagon is ugly. I said that to him, too. It is an ugly car. It's a big, giant box. I'm with you on that. It's like a Kia Soul on steroids. It costs 5 times as much.
Yeah, clearly he has not had to keep a girlfriend somehow, like that. So he has got I'm going to get her the boxy freaking.
They meant like the Mercedes part and the fact that the price tag is impressive, but the actual aesthetic of the car, you're right. You don't pull up to the club and people are like, ooh, that's a cool, that's a sexy mobile. It's no Lamborghini Countach. I'm just going to put it out there. All right, let's keep rolling here before we offend all of our listeners who love G-Wagons. Let's go out to another trade we talked about last week. And I think we actually followed up a little bit on oddities on Friday as well with some more action. We had some listener questions about it. But this is Cinemark again, going back out to the theater chains, ticker symbol CNK. Trading right now, 17.13, up about $0.50. But last week, your profile, it seems like some of Mr. Rock Lobster, as you'll recall, was freaking out about Cinemark because they were loading up on puts, including some pretty much one-day puts in Cinemark. They were buying the 17.5 puts nearly 10,000 times, 9,498 times for 15 cents. They were lifting the offer. They didn't park a dime bid or anything. They just said, we're going to take them all. They paid a 120 vol, if you're wondering. The stock was 18.5 at the time, so they need these things to sell off of more than $1 in a day to make these puts make sense. They came back and did more. They did a total of 20,000 of these puts on the day, so they weren't playing around. You're talking, $300,000 on these puts, and they also bought 10,000 of these 17.5 puts in March as well. They paid about $1.10 for those. We can come back to those another time, but right now we can pay off the Feb puts. And Mr. Rock Lobster, take a guess. They bought the 17.5 puts. Take a guess where the stock closed on expiration, sir.
Let me see. 17.5.
17.51. So, yes, they're right. This is like the second or third name we've looked at recently that has kind of pinned right on the strike, which is interesting. Haven't seen that in a while, and all of a sudden, the last few weeks, you've seen it a few times. But, yeah, 17.51. So those puts they scrambled to pay for all went out worthless. Sucks for them. So that's about $300,000 that they dropped on this. So they were somewhat right. The stock did sell off. And I guess maybe if they had hit the bid earlier, the puts were still open on, by the way, at the end of the day. So they didn't take these off. So, yeah, so they could have maybe scrambled if there was an aggressive sell-off. They only had a day. Not much you could do. But maybe you could have got them back off for maybe scratched them. But that's probably optimistic. But Yeah, they did not, and 300 grand went the way of the dodo. What say you, Mr. Rock Lobster?
I find that unfortunate. I mean, they gave it a try. They thought it was going to work. And, and it didn't. So I don't know really what to say on that score. I feel very sad for the buyer of said puts. They didn't get their love on that one.
I know what to say. I can say that it's time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, everybody, let's get to you folks. I mentioned at the start of the show, we put this up right before showtime. What do you guys think in terms of duration of the impact of this Ukraine event? I will put out there in air quotes. Is it just kind of an invasion blip we're seeing out there in the markets right now, or is this going to drag on? A lot of people might think this could be a pretty bad situation for Russia over the longer term. Ukraine not exactly willing to go down without a fight, and a lot of the population has said they will resist. So we are looking potentially at a long insurgency. You think that might be something we're seeing, or potentially this is going to be over in a few days, a few weeks, a few months, or a few years? Obviously, the latter portion there, you're looking more at the insurgency angle. Let's go out to Uncle Mike first. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if you have a vote, have at it. And then more importantly, what do you think our audience is voting for?
I think our audience is saying this is going to end in a few days. And I am agreeing with the audience if that is what they are saying. Just because of the fact that a lot of things like this do happen, the United States steps in and corrects the problem. Now, the difference this time is that the problem's coming from a major power, Russia. It's not two small countries, but I really think that the United States is going to step in some way, shape, or form and stop this problem. And if it does go on longer, I think it will be due to the U.S. being distracted, because then China's going to invade Taiwan, like Mr. Tinfoil's talking about. But no, I think it's going to go away in a few days, because I think if there was reason to believe it was going to go on for much longer, I think the S&P would be at the 3,000 level right now instead of the 4,000 level.
Interesting. Mr. Rock Lobster, what say you, sir?
Oh, as far as how long it goes, I have to say I'm not as hopeful as Mr. TOSAW. I'm going to keep my tinfoil hat on this for a while longer. I'm not totally convinced that that's kind of that it will be the resolution that we're looking for. So anyway, it could happen, but I think this could potentially drag on. So I think I'm giving this at least another week, maybe 2 weeks of like kind of back and forth. I'm not seeing that action. The action that I want to, at least from the vol point of view. It's still saying frothy, but I could be wrong. But I'm guessing at least I'm betting anyway that we're gonna have another couple weeks of this.
So you're going for a few weeks. You think our audience is there as well?
Yeah. I think the audience is gonna go for, well, I'm gonna say 3 days and less on that choice. If that's a choice, whatever
a few days.
But I'm going long.
Okay, yeah. So the audience right now you're right. They're very short term. A few days, almost 41%. A few weeks, exactly a third, 33.3%. A few months, 11.1%. And a few years, 14.8%. I hate to be the cynic, but I am more leaning more towards the longer end. I don't think this is going to be. He might roll in. They may topple the Ukrainian government. We are starting to see, maybe we'll see shades of World War II era stuff, government and exiles, resistances. It does seem like Ukraine tends to put up a fight, even if the organized military is toppled. They're not just going to roll over. They are a very large, very populous country, and they have said many times they want to resist this. So I would not be surprised if we do see the beginning of an armed resistance that unfolds there for quite some time, obviously supported by us, funded by us, armed by us. We're not going to let this just roll over and end. So yeah, I hate to be, again, the cynic in me, but I think we might be in for a bit of a longer haul than our poll. Our audience is a little bit more optimistic on the outlook right now. I hope you're right. I hope this whole thing blows over. I hope Putin says, you know what, my bad. I'm sorry. I roll back out. Here you go, Ukraine. here's some money for your troubles, and we all move on. But I don't think that is the case. Interesting stuff, actually, by the way. When we tweeted this out, one of our secret club members, Mr. Unlimited, he actually tweeted out this chart. I haven't had a chance to look at it in detail, but it's a chart of geopolitical events and stock market reactions and the actual duration of how long it took place. Like, for example, when the Iranian general was assassinated back on January 3rd. Everyone forgets that because the pandemic started rolling in a few weeks later. But yeah, that happened. That was a one-day sell-off in the markets. The Aramco Saudi drone strike, and that was September of 2019. It seemed like it was more recent than that, but c'est la vie. Bombing of Syria, Boston Mayor, all these things, the Kennedy assassination, Gulf of Tonkin. Now we're going back. A 6-day war, how long they lasted in the S&P, the one-day drawdown, the total drawdown, and the calendar days from bottom to recovery. So that's kind of interesting. The invasion of Kuwait, one of the longer ones here, 189. Pearl Harbor was 300 days. It took 307 days from the bottom of the market to recovery, which is interesting. The one-day drawdown was only 3.8% for Pearl Harbor, and the total drawdown, I'm not sure how they calculate that, but it was about 20%. Obviously, December 7th, 1941, a very impactful day out there. Interesting chart. We actually retweeted this because it's kind of fascinating. So if you want to check it out, listeners, at Options is the place to go to see. This obviously doesn't have things like VIX, and obviously there was no VIX back in the Pearl Harbor days. You can maybe try to reasonably intuit something like that. But interesting stuff, the Reagan attempted assassination, all kinds of stuff on this chart. So if you're intrigued by the historical perspective on some of this stuff, and clearly you are, then get on out there to at Options. We retweeted it for you. It's pretty cool stuff. We got Adrian writing in saying, am I crazy, or are people looking at this invasion as a BTFD opportunity? No, you are not crazy, Adrian. Like I mentioned at the start of the show, NASDAQ actually is up again. It's up a full percent now. So yeah, it has gone since we started talking, Adrian, from down a little bit to actually up a full percent. So you are not crazy. People are clearly buying this market right now. So they would probably fall, I would imagine, in the former category of our poll, in that, yeah, this is a near-term blip. And certainly you can argue some of these names that have nothing to do with what's going on in Ukraine, that are just getting dragged down by their beta. You could certainly argue there could be some opportunities there. Clearly, though, you are not crazy, Adrian. People are out there buying this stuff. Whether they're crazy or not is a conversation for another day. But you, Adrian, are not crazy.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, listeners, let's do it. Like I said, back in the green on NASDAQ, still off about 0.5% in the S&P, 1.5% in the Dow. So it's very much a mixed market. Where you hang your hat, what names you're looking at, what kind of day you're having out there, listeners. Let's look really quickly where we're hanging out here. From a VIX level to about 30, a little bit shy of 33 right now, actually, 32 and change. So it's coming off a bit there as well. Mr. Luigi, maybe those puts going to be looking good. We shall see. Let's go out to Uncle Mike first. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, a lot to keep an eye on until our next show. What are you watching, sir?
Of course, watching the markets. I think 4,000 is a key level right now on the SPX. Of course, if there's news events, news always can always outdo any technicals or numbers or whatever the case may be. But for right now, a lot of the bad news, I think, is factored in. So I'm watching 4,000 pretty closely. Also watching the 10-year note at the 2% mark. So we have that going as well. Just seeing how things are reacting to it, because this really, if this was this bad, it really should have, markets should have been flat on the year and then gone down 800 S&P points today. And so I think the market kind of had an idea this was coming. Plus, it was pulling back. So just continuing to stare at the screen with my eyelids taped open and making adjustments if need be.
Yeah, it seems like we've had Biden speaking since the show started, saying pretty much what you'd expected: a premeditated attack, unprovoked and unjustified attack. He involves consequences, but I'm not sure if they've given any specifics as to what those might be. Obviously, new sanctions, what those can be at this point, what point sanctions even are once the tanks have already rolled, is another question entirely. But interesting stuff, maybe something to parse there as well. Markets, maybe at least the NASDAQ may be liking what they're hearing a little bit. Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you. What are you keeping an eye on until our next show on Monday, sir?
Well, I guess this crazy Ukraine crisis.
Oh, is there a crisis? I must have missed it. What's going on?
Yes. And, and my tinfoil hat is looking at how this affects China, all that kind of stuff. Taiwan, all that. This is like, so is this hurt investment in China? Like with the Russians going off, the Russians going off the reservation, I guess the Chinese don't want investment. Who knows? I think there's some ripples here that I don't think are quite, I think the ripples are not quite over with here. So anyway, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
Unfortunately, we can't stick with the show. It's like Biden also said he's sending more troops to Germany, but he emphasized they're not going in to fight the Russians. They're going to hold the NATO borders. Some people were speculating maybe Russia might try to spill over into NATO areas. That's a very different story. I don't think we're there, thankfully, yet. So, our forces are going there to hold the lines, but we're back to the old days. U.S. tanks holding the borders of Poland and Germany against Russian tanks coming from the east. Yes, the bad old days are back again. Unfortunately, listeners, that music means we are done with the show. But, if you want a little more in your ear holes and you want to talk about some of the commodity price action and volatility, and spoiler alert, there's a freaking lot of it. We actually had to do two movers and shakers reports this week, one for the week and one just for the last 24 hours to see what's been popping off. It's some interesting stuff out there. So stay tuned for TWIFO. We'll have a great guest joining me to help break all that down. But before we do that, let's go back around the horn. Let's start with the Uncle list of Mike. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if folks want to reach out to you, they may want some hand-holding in these turbulent markets, or maybe they want to watch a video or two. Where should they go? What should they do?
Lots of places to go, lots of things to do. If you are looking, I just put out a new video yesterday, actually, on strike price selection. If you're looking to buy some calls, might be pretty timely if you are. Check out my YouTube channel. Just type in St. Charles Wealth Management in the search box and subscribe to it. There's all sorts of fun stuff on there. And I'm going to be putting out a video per week, and we'll be 50 by year's end. Follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW, for updates almost daily on my thoughts on the market. If you're looking for a financial advisor who does work in the option product, if indeed it's appropriate for the investor, reach out to me. Check out my website, stcharleswealth.com.
Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you, sir. If folks want to hit you up, where should they go? What should they do? I'm assuming the answer is optionpit.com, but I'm not sure if Rock Lobster can.
I muted myself.
There we go.
Oh my gosh.
There we go.
Yes, optionpit.com. Sorry, I gotta move it to my next gig here, so I'm a little late. But yes, optionpit.com.
There you go. You're too busy sending me these Taiwan ETF charts to spook me.
Do you see the ball in that thing?
Yes.
Look at the ball with the Taiwan ETF.
Yes, clearly they're spooked. I get it. That has been a rumor. And Putin and Xi did meet during the Olympics, so that has been a speculation. Can you imagine? Yeah, I do not want to go there, listener. Let's not put it into the ether, but intriguing stuff. Check them out over there in the land of the pit, optionpit.com. If you're listening live, just stay tuned. We'll pump some fun stuff in there. We'll be back in a little less than half an hour now to break down the mad world of futures, options, volatility on TWIFO. We'll be back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for Volatility Views. I got a feeling we'll have some vol to discuss on that show. And the back after that for all you secret clubbers, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern for Options Oddities. Then back again next week, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.